Welcome to Unstuck and Alive. I'm Todd Pinkston.
And I'm Stephen Nooner.
We have watched it happen.
Fear gives way to faith.
Isolation melts into belonging.
The stuck places break open and life begins to flow again.
On this show, we sit around the fire, so to speak, and listen to the real stories of everyday heroes.
Men and women who have found freedom and stepped into the unforced purpose they were made for.
If you're tired of striving, if you're longing to breathe deep, break free, and come alive again, then you're in the right spot. This is Unstuck and Alive. Let's go. All right, welcome. I'm here with the one and only Terry Pham, founder of Fat Straws, the greatest bubble tea and mochi donuts on planet Earth. Also, dear friend, and the real reason that WayForward Adventures has roots to it. Terry, welcome. Excited to have you.
Dude, I'm excited to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
All right, you're drinking out of an F2 mug. Tell me what F2 is all about.
F2 stands for further, faster. So during COVID, a group of folks from EO, which is a group called Entrepreneurs Organization, we were, some businesses were uncertain. And so we were getting up at 5:30 in the morning and we would hop on a Zoom call, state our intention, purpose for the day, maybe talk about some goals. And then we would mute and then leave the cameras open and do deep work for about 90 minutes. It wasn't time to email, this was time to focus. And what I loved about it was the amount of work we got done in such a short period, and that stillness of the morning was great. And so, and the idea was we can go fast alone, but further together. So this is how do we go further and faster?
Come on.
And this is where also that buffalo analogy, run towards your fear, kind of came about. I know WayForward talks about charging the storm. So some similarities there.
I love it, man. Hey, so you're always up to something. Like every time we talk, you're always working on something new. You've got something, just like that. It's like you got nuggets of gold from your personal life, your professional life, your spiritual life. What are you working on right now? Like what's mulling through your mind? What habits are you putting in place that are helping you find clarity and succeed right now?
Wow, man, it's an interesting question because I think this year there's been a shift in some of that for me, and I think specifically I'm just a naturally curious person.
Yeah.
And I get fascinated with ideas. I get fascinated with different approaches, and I'm not afraid to try things. But I think one thing that's really has been challenging for me this year is, have I been searching for change externally? And again, habits, life hacks, tools, I think those things are all incredible. Discipline, I think all those things are really great. But if I'm not getting to the root of what's going on with me, and so the thing I this year I've really I get up and I have time in the Word. My prayer is always God, transform my heart inside out, that I would be transformed and that I wouldn't seek something external to change or transform me. And so I've had to rest in that this year, which has been a little bit different. But I'm still still curious about things. But I think that's the big shift for me this year. There's tons of great stuff. There's things that have been really impactful. And if you know me, I'm not a sales guy, I'm an evangelist. So I'll try something, and if it brings me a lot of value, I can't help but want to share that with people. So, but that's been one that's been challenging this year for me, and it's been really great. I've had to kind of decouple myself from all these things, and so questions of identity and all this stuff kind of come into play. Stuff you've challenged me on has been really helpful. But yeah, that's probably the big one this year is a little bit more surrender to the Lord, and where am I finding identity, and just trying to find stillness, because I like to go and do and achieve and work things out and fix and solve, and I get a lot of like joy and satisfaction. I think God wired me to do that really well, but at the same time, it can be, there's a shadow side to that if that's where I'm finding my joy and fulfillment and my worth. And
Hmm.
so the hardest thing for me has been trying to decouple some of those things, right? Even serving, right, can be this really beautiful thing for me, but like, what's the motivation behind some of that stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's unpack that a little more. You've been through EO, you've been, culture index, you've done strategic coach. I mean, you've done all these incredible programs, tools to make you a better leader, to make fat straws operate more efficiently. You're successful. I mean, by the world standards, they look at a
Hmm.
guy like you, and I mean, cover of Entrepreneur magazine, with braces on. You've done some amazing things professionally, and now you're actually, later in your career, you're actually pulling back from some of that to focus. I mean, we call it here like below the line. Focus on what's going on
Oh
below the
yeah,
line.
yeah,
And so, yeah, like what I mean, I think that's a balance that we all struggle with. Of like, the old R. Marsh is pray like it depends on God and work like it depends on you.
totally, totally.
I mean, so where are you at in the process? Tell me more, just kind of what you're mulling over and kind of how you got to the conclusion you're at right now.
Yeah, I think, it's interesting. I'm actually next week I'm going to be going to Vietnam. That's where my family's from. I've never been there.
Yeah.
It's literally 50 years. I turned 50 in August.
Wow.
So in many regards, it's almost like, and you've heard my life story. It's almost like I heard this. I heard this actually great podcast recently. It's an older one. It's Johnny Kim. He's the meme on the internet is he's the perfect Asian son. He's a Navy SEAL. He's a Harvard Medical School graduate.
Wow.
He's a doctor, and he's a NASA astronaut. So, and he became this joke, and I was like, is this guy real? And he was on the Jocko podcast, and like one of the things he actually talks about, because you hear a story that's incredible, because all that's forged through suffering and pain and brokenness, and it's
Yeah.
like stories you hear on trail, stories I hear in EO. It's like it's life, and I think one of the things he talks about is, man, it's like he says, so much of my life is an accident, right? And like, and he's a believer too. And as a believer, like I know we don't believe it, like nothing's an accident. But in many ways, my life, I related to the language around that, because we left Vietnam in April, 3 days before Saigon fell, and I'm literally like born just a few months later in a refugee camp in Arkansas. So my story, like, without going too deep into it, a lot of this is about, my dad died when I was really young. So it's like, I always say, how does a woman teach a boy to be a man? It's
Yeah.
really tough, right? You can't impart what you don't possess, kind of a thing.
Hmm.
And so I kind of wrestled with a lot of that, and it's like identity and acceptance and figuring out like, how do I fit into all this? And so probably grew up a lot of my life just being kind of like scared or uncertain, having to figure things out on my own. But I think through that built resilience and grit, and like having to learn how to just figure things out on my own.
Yeah.
And that served me well in life. But, and so a lot of like, I think the good qualities, if you want to say, a lot of my gifts, they're not inherently bad, but there's a shadow side to some of that stuff of like, am I serving, is my desire to serve truly out of the desire to serve, or is there something deeper of a desire just to feel acceptance
Hmm.
and love? And is my desire to, is my identity an entrepreneur, right? And sometimes, and it's been challenging. That business has been challenging the last few years, and it's made me question like, oh, am I an entrepreneur? And so to grow up without a dad, like, uh, I've had to kind of figure a lot of this stuff out. And I remember a friend of mine years ago asked me, like, he's like, man, when did you become a man?
Hmm.
And I had to wrestle with that question. I thought, the day I became a man was actually the day I became a dad.
Wow.
And the reason I said that is because, like, whether I was a man at that point or not, I knew I had to teach my son how to be a man.
Hmm.
So I was going to have to figure it out. So that was like I still remember it was like a defining moment for me. It's like, oh, you have a son now. You get to be a father. And so, like, the kid who grew up without a dad, how incredible. Like, I've got the blessing of that relationship to get to experience a father-son relationship on the other side, so I often say I was shaped more by the absence of my father than the presence of him, because he died when I was really young.
Yeah.
And so I've had to wrestle with a lot of this stuff. And like, ironically enough, my son Tyler called me last night late, and he's working right now, and he was just talking about some stuff and wrestling with control and like identity. And I said, man, I almost feel like God wanted you to call me, and I'm supposed to hear this because it's making me wrestle almost in preparation for my conversation with you today. And
Hmm.
like, I had to kind of like unpack some of that stuff in my head, and it was kind of a great preface to it. But yeah, so I mean, to kind of tie it all together. Yes, I've had some success. There's all this some great stuff, but I would be inauthentic if I didn't say I still wrestle with like imposter syndrome, or am I good enough, or like, am I really all these things? I mean, like, when I joined EO, I was like, I don't know if I'm an entrepreneur. I don't know if I belong here. These guys have these big businesses, and like, yeah, my business is doing okay, but like, I'm just a son of immigrants who runs a bubble tea shop, and as I say, I sling tea for a living, And but what I learned quickly was, through life stories, through vulnerability, and through authenticity, is like, oh, I'm no different than these guys. Like, we all
Hmm.
have our wounds, we all have our brokenness, and like, those are the things that, if anything, there was a common thread in the room. Is like, I don't think there was a single guy in that room who came from a family with a silver spoon.
Yeah.
Everyone came from, I think everyone in that room came from broken families or had some hardship in life.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. I've been through a lot of work, through a lot of prayer, and through God's grace. It's something, this journey I'm continuing to be on, is unpack all this stuff.
Hmm. That's rich, and it's cool you mentioned that because you actually played that role for me. I mean, when WayForward started, I mean, talk about imposter syndrome. I'm like, I was a ministry guy that went to seminary. I'm like, I know nothing about business, and here, and I found you, and I was like, hey, I want to run an organization with the same caliber that you run yours, and can you
Oh.
teach me? And you taught me some incredible, business tools, but the greatest thing you gave me was, man, I'm just like you. Like to know that, holy cow, he doesn't have it all figured out. Holy cow, like he wrestles with things on a daily basis. Holy cow, man, he's trying to find balance. And I mean, and you're so much further down the road. And man, I think that's ATP. That's one of the greatest gifts you give, is like you are so relatable, you're so humble, and you're a champion of people. And at the same time, people look at you and they're like, man, you've done some incredible things. And that gives you the platform. But man, it's the humility that makes you relatable. And so, man, I think that the things you were just saying about your dad, I mean, so we grow up with questions we are trying to answer. And no matter how great our parents are, we're left, some of those questions are left unanswered. And it's part of the gospel story that God gets to come in and help answer some of those. But man, it's super apparent when you don't have a dad. I mean,
Mm.
the opportunity to say, Dad, am I ready? Dad, am I good enough? I mean, those were all left answered. So you take those questions out to the world, and you're hardworking, you're intelligent, and you took those to being an entrepreneur, starting a business, and you have weathered two, now three, incredible storms. I mean, you started right before 2008. It all
Or
came crumbling
2002,
down. Huh?
started in 2002. So post.com,
Yeah.
then recession
Yeah.
of '08, then pandemic,
Yeah.
and
And
then
then now,
whatever we're
so
in right now.
yeah, so you weathered COVID, which seemed like it was the biggest storm, But now you're dealing with just the the aftershock of inflation of you got price of foods going up, you got price of labor going up, and people are pulling back on spending because of the unknowns.
Totally.
What are you learning in the midst of this one? I mean, you've been through
Oof.
two that seem like they were had more headlines than what is right now, but this one is causing you to look inside at some identity
Yeah.
stuff. Like, share just a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, history is a great teacher, and sometimes I forget. Again, I think sometimes youth and ignorance is bliss sometimes. Just maybe I can outwork it. But I think something that's different about this one for me has been, I think what's been so frustrating has been it doesn't feel like any challenges we're having is because of our ability to execute or
Yeah.
do the craft or do the thing we do. In fact, I feel like we do that really well, I mean, maybe even better than we did in years past. But there's external factors. So when you when you're struggling because of things out of your control, then that has left me to wrestle with, well, the reality of the situation that change. What has to change is how I show up, how I respond.
Hmm.
And I think for a good part of that time, I kind of kept waiting and thinking things are going to get better, or let me outwork it, or you know. And then eventually, it's like, oh man, I'm past my prime. Maybe I've lost my touch, or I'm not good at what I do anymore. So tons of questions of like self doubt,
Hmm.
questions of you know maybe I'm not the imposter syndrome stuff's like, oh, here it is.
Yeah.
and and so in the thick of it, I think the other thing is I'm older now, and there feels like there's more at stake. I have more stuff. I have people I support my mom. I have more team members who have their own families now. They're not just young and single. They're married and have families. So the implication, I have investors, like the implications of this stuff is far reaching, and
Hmm.
it's wide. And it's something I always thought about when I first started, which was, gosh, I need to do this when I'm young, because if I'm older and I got a cushy corporate job, I'm going to be too gun shy. There's going to be too many
Right.
commitments or reasons why I can't do it. And so that's kind of strangely all come to fruition,
Yeah.
because there have been times I'm like, man, I don't know if we're going to make it. It's like been really, really challenging. And I've had to do some hard things. I've had to make cuts. I've had to readjust my lifestyle. I've had to, and with that comes, it feels in many ways like failure. And there's shame. There's how much of my identity is wrapped up in that, how much of my identity is wrapped up in my business. Like if it were to go away, who am I? What
Yeah.
do I do? And like, I call it the witching hour, 3 a.m. You wake up in a cold sweat. And like, honestly, that's when like, I feel like, Satan's like in your head and just feeding lies, like whispering in your ear, like, okay, yeah, like if this all goes away, like, buddy, you better like get ready to go work at Costco, or you better, and then when I share this, and here's the funny thing is when I actually say this out loud to people, the laughs, the, the almost diffusing of that thought
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah.
And that's been something I would say has been really powerful for me. Is like, I think the worst thing is when you're going through tough stuff is to isolate yourself.
Amen, brother.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing that I do. And something I think I've been thankful is like, there have been years in the past where you've just called me out of the blue and been like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good, man. You're like, no, 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 hold on. How are you really doing? And then it's like disarming. And we have such a relationship. Can't lie to you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well,
You
actually,
got
yeah,
an
it's been
hour?
kind of rough. And then I'm like, and then it just all comes out,
Yeah. So when you
you know?
when you share in those groups, like, hey, I'm going to work at Costco, are they laughing because they think it's absurd that Terry Pham would work at Costco, or are they laughing because they have the exact same thoughts?
I don't think it's that they think it's absurd that I'm going to work at Costco. They think it's absurd that I think so little of myself, that one, and of them, that And again, there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with working at Costco. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, my
Yeah.
mom, family, like working at 7-Eleven, but it's just like, they're like, one, you're almost going back. There's like this catastrophizing that happens in your head.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's great. I understand if they're like, one, this isn't the only thing you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Fast draws. Two, you know, you haven't even considered tapping into like your network and what's possible. And like, and three, it's like, we wouldn't let that happen to you, meaning like we would figure out how. So there's a community of people who would want to like prop me up and say like, and it's just foolish for you to like think, almost like think so little of yourself. And I don't say that to demean like people who work at Costco, but it's like, no, you don't have to just go and become an employee. Like you can go and build something else.
Right.
In fact, you're capable of it. And like, you have so much value to add in these other areas. And it's like, but the secret is the dirty secret is I don't believe that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the scary part. It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm unemployable. I've been an entrepreneur for 23 years. Like I can go work at a Starbucks and sling coffee. I can go work in a retail environment. That's kind of it in my mind.
Yeah.
And that's the scary thing is that how easily I can kind of fall into those patterns. But
Yeah.
I'm thankful I have men and friends and people in a community who love me and who just like say, "Hey, stop believing those lies."
Yeah. And that's what it is, man. We become trapped in the prison of our lies. And I mean, I love the verse, Paul says, for freedom Christ has set us free. Don't go back into slavery. And
Yeah,
that's where we go in our minds. I mean, there's so many fascinating things about your story right now. The external factors, it's almost like we walk outside and we think it's going to be sunny and it's rainy, and then we start questioning our identity. It's like, what? I mean, it has nothing to do with you. And man, I can vouch, like, you're one of the best leaders I've ever been around. I mean, you love people so well. You're so generous. Your team members love working for you. You produce incredible product. Like, I'm not just saying that because you're my friend, but one time we had a reading bet, and you lost a year's worth of fat straws. I gained like 20 pounds that year because I couldn't stop. I mean, you've got an incredible menu. I mean, hands down the best bubble tea in the country. And then also the mochi donuts. I mean, it's like everything's fun. It has it has a great atmosphere. It's not just a drink. It's an experience. So all these things, if you were to just look at those, I mean, you're at the top of your game. And yet you're having some of the questions of, am I going to make it? And then that goes into identity. And it's just, man, it's a spiral. And so those things keep us stuck, and they literally rob us of life. They rob us of seeing what's God doing in my day. Man, where can I find purpose? Where are the opportunities? So what do you do personally to get unstuck? Like, how do you find freedom in the midst of the storm of lies? I mean, the absurdity of, it might go under tomorrow. I mean, like,
yeah,
it's amazing how that spirals so quickly. How do you find freedom in those moments?
yeah. I mean, that's a great question, and I think it's so counter. And what I see, and again, it's one thing I've learned is it's if I was to be advising or counseling or helping out myself, like
Yeah.
as a third party, I would have a very different approach, right? And I think one of the biggest things I've learned is I can't unstuck myself, and like I think that's something and that's really hard to accept, especially when you have that rugged individualist. You've grown up
Yeah.
in this place where like, hey, like I got to figure things out. I don't ask for help, and there's like a pride that comes from that, and like, hey, I got to dig it out of the dirt, as they say, right? But every time I've done that, I've been unsuccessful.
Yeah.
Like for me to truly get unstuck starts with one, just being honest with myself.
Let's go.
Like, where am I at? What's going on? Like, I'm stuck generally when I'm hiding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly,
Come out of
that's
hiding.
It's hiding, like however you want to look at it. It's like hiding behind I'm feeling ashamed, or I'm hiding like I don't need anyone's help. It's pride, whatever. I'm hiding from whatever it is. And I'm grateful that I have, again, people in my life that I can be known, that be fully known and fully loved,
Yeah.
that I can share my stuff and not feel judged or less than or inadequate. And that's typically where it starts, right? It starts with one, like knowing like, hey, I'm not well. And that's hard. I actually had that conversation with Bill's like, how do you know when you're not okay? Right? Because like
Yeah.
I don't actually sometimes know that I'm not okay. And it's been forged out of, I think in some ways it's served me well in life, a like resilience, a grit of like not letting the ills of life, overly affect me, where it's like, oh, I can't get out of bed. Like I wouldn't even know if I was depressed if I was depressed. Like I don't even know. That's why I've even asked him, like, well, what is depression? Like I never feel like I can't get out of bed. I never feel like, but for me, it's like it may show up differently, like hiding, avoidance, doom scrolling, disengaging from people,
Yeah.
only focusing on work or the task or whatever it is I needed to do. And so once I do that, once I like realize I'm not in a good place, then it's like sharing. And so having, for me, I'm again super grateful that I have a group of men in my forum that we meet for half a day once a month, and I can just share. And it's two things. In preparation, I have to fill out an update form and basically reflect on the last month,
Yeah.
right? Like journaling is a great addition to this, but it's almost like my friend Ryan says, focusing on the conversation I'm having with myself. Like, what's that language?
Okay.
Like, am I critical? I mean, what is, I think Chandler always says it like, no one's meaner to you than you. Right. And it's like, man, I'm mean to myself. It's like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't talk to my kids that way, but like, my wife that way, but why do I talk to myself that way? So that starts with that reflecting, and like, what was honestly the most significant thing that's happened in the last 30 days. And it's in
Mm.
three buckets: my professional life, my family life, and here's the thing, my personal life. And when I first started doing this, I struggled with personal because so much of my identity was wrapped up in Terry at Fat Straws, or Terry being a husband to Jen, or Terry being,
Yeah.
the father of my kids.
Yeah.
But it's like, what about Terry separate from all those things,
Yeah.
right? Just me. And I think for the first year, I didn't know even how to like have language around that. And
Yeah.
so once I started figuring out like, okay, let me reflect, and then to have a place to go and share it, they reflect back what I'm saying, and it's almost like they help me debunk the lies.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also like have some accountability and say, hey, like this is a recurring thing. Like I think you're hiding again, or you're running, or you're like,
Yeah.
you're avoiding. You've done that for me. I think I've seen it on trail, and so I think there's so many men walking around, men and women, but I just say men specifically, like I see it all the time in the community that are just quietly struggling, and because they don't have that. They don't have what does Chandler call it? A king's table,
Mm-hmm.
right? Men who you can just share your stuff with. And
Yeah.
so for me, getting unstuck starts with like opposite is being vulnerable, sharing my stuff
Yeah.
fully, and having a group of people that I can trust, and then having them reflect back to me. But then like doing something actionable, like my friend Alex always says, action is the antidote to fear. So they've seen me in like same thing, like in the last few years when I've been worried or fearful of business. They're like, well, hey, you can't control this. Like, what's an action you can take?
Yeah.
Like one thing, just break it apart slowly. And it's like amazing the momentum that you can get from that. It's like taking on the hard thing, do the hard thing. And then the things that seemed so insurmountable to me afterwards, each one subsequent to that becomes much, much easier.
Yeah. Man, TP, that's rich. Hey, I can tell you honestly, I mean, just to encourage you, you're the best version of yourself right now you've ever been. Like I mean, I've known you for 15 years, something like that.
Oh
We've
yeah,
worked
yeah.
alongside of each other. I mean, I've been on the receiving end of your product evangelism more times than I can count. And man, I can tell you just the way that you reflect on yourself right now is just, it's in a whole different league. And man, you're wiser, you're more thoughtful. I have no doubt you are a better husband and father right now than you've ever been. And I know
Mm,
that oftentimes our burrs are rubbed off through trials, and trials are
mm,
never fun, but man, it refines us. And it's like, man, that's the way God's designed it. It's like marriage, it's hard for a reason. Kids, they're hard for a reason. I mean, that's where Paul talks about embracing the struggles, because man, they help us shed the things that are not of him. And so I just want to encourage you. Not saying that
thanks,
because we're
man.
on a recording right now. I'm saying that because I love you.
Yeah,
And
no, I love it,
I
man.
just
I love you too, dude.
I see so much wisdom in you. I've always said like you're a great coach, but I think you're becoming even more valuable as a friend and a coach than you've ever been.
Thanks.
And so you've talked a couple times about this concept of like the shadow self, or even this idea of over torquing our gifts, where
Mm. So that's a great way to
we
put it.
know we're good at something, and so when times get tough, man, we go all in on that. And sure, a lot of it comes out of our childhood. A lot of it comes out of, if that's what we were affirmed on, that's where we build our identity. But you've also talked about, just the simplicity of like being real. Man, what's the first step to coming out of, hiding? It's like just being honest. That is so much harder than what we give it credit for. But so, if we run from our strengths, then we're not living out who we've been designed to be. But if we put all of our chips down on them, then there's the shadow side of like, that's where we're finding our identity. And so it is this dance in and out. How do you navigate that? I mean, how do you find, oh, today I'm working my tail off because, man, I'm joyful and I really just want to work hard and I've got energy, praise God, versus tomorrow you wake up and you're working because, oh man, you want somebody to say, oh, that's Terry Pham, he's the Fat Straws guy, because that's where you find your identity. I mean, how do you personally unravel that to figure out when you're operating out of the good, the gold side, the noble side, and when are you operating out of the shadow side?
Oof, man, that's tough. I think I'm still working on that. I think, I think a big part of that for me, at least it is a more almost a lagging indicator, is am I experiencing burnout or am I experiencing fatigue? And that is usually like
Mm,
a telltale sign. If I'm burnt out, I'm living in the shadow side because
that's
I'm
good.
usually redlining. I'm working hard. I'm doing the things I think I'm good at. I'm achieving, getting results. Outcomes are falling into place. But if I'm burnt out and I'm not getting energy from it, then I'm most likely operating in shadow. And if I'm so the difference to me, like fatigue is like the analogy is like you lay some sod or you landscape your house and you are, it's an all day deal and you're beat. But afterwards you look and you're like, man, that was a good day's of work. And you look
Yeah.
and you marvel and you appreciate like what you did. Burnout is like there's not that reward. It's never ending and it's slow. It's a slow burn, but eventually it's just like,
Hmm.
you know, and that's where it's like, oh, I'll just dig in. I'll be more disciplined, doing the thing I need to do, even though I don't want to do it. And I can get you so far. But if I find that I'm like running out of gas or I start getting short with people, or if there's like a low level, just kind of frustration or low level annoyance with people, that's usually the telltale sign that, man, I'm off.
That's
And
good.
I need to, I need to like pause. I need to probably like either step away from what I'm doing or need to go talk to somebody, share
Hmm.
what's really going on. And like, again, I think I don't often know when I fall in those patterns. So it takes my wife or even my kids to say, you're grumpy. You're Why are you're upset? And then I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, oh yeah, you are. The way you drove home and like you're cleaning angrily. And it's like, what is going on? It's like,
And then you
oh,
raise your voice. I'm not upset.
totally. And it's like, and that has happened before, like fairly recently. Like you seem frustrated, you seem angry about something. I was like, oh, and then I have to stop
Yeah.
and I have to think about it. And then I think the biggest thing is actually like coming clean with it too and saying, hey,
Yeah.
kids, not just I'm sorry, but please forgive me for like I failed. You know, I fallen down, but I thank you for showing me like I'm off, and I'm sorry if I did anything or took it out on you guys because you didn't deserve it. Please
Yeah.
forgive me,
Yeah.
right? And that's like healing for me, and I hopefully for them as well. Instead of just like, hey, I'm sorry that, but and then make an excuse. It's just been a rough few weeks or whatever.
I'm sorry, but let me justify my actions.
Yeah, and that's something I've had to like as I've gotten older too, just like that's
Hmm.
separating that out. But like that's usually the telltale sign. Like
Yeah.
if I'm burnt out, if I'm edgy, because you know one of the verse that I kind of live by is like Mark 10:45 is like for even the Son of Man came not to be served but to serve and give his life as a ransom. And
Yeah.
like I love serving. I love serving people. The shadow side of that is if I'm doing it, it's not coming from a place of joy. It's coming from a place of I'm doing this for acceptance. I'm doing this for value. I'm doing this for, you know, because I find my identity in it. And if I'm serving to the point where I'm burnt out, not
Yeah.
fatigued,
Yeah.
but burnt out, then I've crossed over the line
Yeah.
and I've got to come back. And coming back is usually like just, I have to have some alone time.
Yeah.
I have to unplug from things. I got to get off my phone. I got to, you know, and just kind of get back. I got to get back in the, you know, if I'm not in the word or I'm not, I need to spend time with the Lord. And it's not like I'm going to spend time to learn something. I'm just going to spend time and just delight in God's creation and his love for me. And like, and that's hard to do, right? Because it can often feel like I'm just, you know, it's just like frantic. And it's like slowing down is honestly probably the first step. Just like slow down,
Yeah.
pause, just pause. And that's really, really hard for me to
Yeah.
do at times, especially when things are challenging, right? Because it feels like if I'm pausing, I'm not doing enough. And sometimes it's like counter, you know? It's like that's what one of the things I learned in coach. It's like 3 days are like no work,
Yeah.
nothing. It's play, right? And it's counter. The first thing they have us do is schedule your free days. How many do you want a year? And like book all your trips at the beginning of the year. Book all your time off. Because if you don't do those things, you don't recharge, re-energize, and that's when you're most creative.
Yeah.
And I think most often I avoid that because that feels guilty, like I need to be working harder. And you've seen me in those periods. And I think that's what's so great about going on trail. It's
Hmm.
like a forced, I talked about it with Tyler yesterday. He's like, man, I want to go again. And I said, how come? He said, because I I really enjoyed it last time. He's like, but I have a different lens of life now and I've experienced more. I think I'd appreciate it more if I was to go the second time.
Hmm.
So I said, let's do it.
Let's do it. Come on. Man, so we'll get to trail here in a sec, but I don't want to miss what you said. I think it's incredibly wise. I've never heard it packaged that way, but burnout and fatigue. And I think another you said it at the end, but fatigue, you were reflecting of like, "Oh, I'm tired. My back's a little sore," after you've stopped. So it's like fatigue is working hard for a season and then
Hmm.
you're pausing but you're tired from it, where burnout is like the candle keeps burning.
Totally.
It never stops. And that's where, man, I people always ask like, how do you find balance? It seems like that's what the younger generation is looking for, is the perfect balanced life. And I'm like, man, balance is bullcrap. Like there is no such thing as balance.
Yeah, totally.
Like, well, hey, I need to lay some sod. Well, I guess balance is I'll lay 30 minutes of sod a day. It's like, well, by the time you get to the end, it's going to be done. You know what I mean? Tell anybody that's been super successful, whether that's business or professional athlete or really just an incredible parent. I mean, anything that they've done at the highest caliber, they don't have balance. They know things. Life is in seasons,
Sure.
and seasons have a beginning and have an end. And that's where, yeah, it's like laying sod. It's a hard season. It may only last 5 hours, but holy cow, like your back is smoked and
Yeah.
you're tired. And you look out over the lawn, with a cold one in your hand while the sprinklers are going. And it's like there's a satisfaction in the season where
Sure.
burnout is like you just continue to see, oh my gosh, I got to go pull those weeds. Oh my gosh, and you realize I can't stop because there is, if somebody sees that imperfection, that's all they're going to notice. And that's my identity.
It's perpetual. Yeah, it's
Yep.
like this snowstorm, blizzard, or ice age, and it's
Absolutely.
just kind of this never ending. There's no end in sight. And
Yeah.
the thing is, when there's no end in sight, you don't have there's no satisfaction, right? It's like, oh, it's never ending. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. I just got to keep going, keep
Gap in the
going.
gain.
It's the acting
You're
game.
always gapping out. And
Totally.
it keeps you burned out.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk trail.
Yeah.
Conejos Peak. Hey, by the way, I mean show them that this is classic. You got OG. Show them the OG hat right there. I mean
Come on.
that is it's got to be year 2. And then right
Yeah.
here, I mean look at, now we're
I
turning the
know.
words
Come
upside down.
on.
It's trendy.
I know I need to get
Oh.
one of those.
What happened on Conejos Peak?
Oh man. Transformation.
Hmm.
Really. I get emotional when I think about it. I still remember probably 2 years, right? Because I was supposed to go the year before and it didn't happen. She gave me grief over, which I love. So to spend all this time, I think why like we used to get to spend time on Tuesdays.
Come on.
You had Bible study at your house, and then we'd come to the office, lunch, probably like 2 cases of seltzer later, and we would talk about family, we'd talk about business, we'd talk about life and faith and recap. And I remember being in a weird place in my faith at that time. Like, grew up in the church, but to me, like at that young, growing up, it was more like no one in my family went to church. I had some great people who brought me to church, but to me, it felt more like do good things, be a good dude, and good things happen. It wasn't so much about my relationship with Christ. It was more about, and that was just on me, right? It's like, I can't say did anyone share the gospel with me, but it was just about a way of life than it was about a relationship.
Yeah.
It was about doing stuff. Came to Christ later, in my 20s, and then we were going to church. Had kind of a falling out with a pastor in my early 20s. We were very actively involved, serving, and I think that kind of wrecked my faith a little bit. And then I got busy with fast draws, and then I just slowly drifted. And life happens, right? And then and it's almost like being away from the body. Also, there's whispers, and I started questioning. And then I had all these thoughts, unresolved thoughts, and I thought they were really great. And I brought those to you on Tuesdays, and I would ask you about. I'd ask you all the hard questions. We would even cover them in Bible study. And I think after a while, it was like what I loved about it. You're just like, yeah, I don't know. I
More
don't
times
know.
than
Like,
not.
no, and it was kind of like, but it was almost like, what do you need to resolve your doubt? Because if you can't answer that question, you're going to be in doubt forever, right? So 2016, I sign up because I didn't go the year before, go on trail. And I remember the first day, I mean, I was all in. I was all in. Group from CFR, guys that I'd known for several years. First day we hike, and then you're like, all right, break for camp, or we're here at camp, go have some solo time. And I remember sitting solo for the first time, and I call it my Lieutenant Dan moment. And so there's a Forrest Gump scene, Lieutenant Dan, after, he's mad at God, and he's sitting in the crow's nest, and there's a storm that's raging. And he's like, he's like, God, you're never gonna sink this ship. It's finally, it's me and you, it's a showdown. And obviously the boat doesn't crash and Bubba got shrimp and all this other stuff. So that's my moment. I'm like, all right, God, I've been wrestling with you. I've been meeting with Todd on Tuesdays, and I said yes to this, and I'm here. You need to show up. It's kind of like
Go.
I was like, come on.
Yeah.
And he did. And
Hmm.
I broke down. And and
Hmm.
it was like, hey, he's like, hey, you had tough stuff happen to you as a kid. You didn't grow up with a dad. And you've navigated life telling the story like it's not yours and that you're immune to it. Like you're in spite of it, you're okay. You turned out
Yeah.
okay. Like, and I think he was like, but you're not okay. And
Yeah.
it's it's not okay that it happened, but it's okay. And like it's like I love you, and you can let it go now.
Yeah.
You don't have to carry this around anymore. And I remember just weeping. And then from that moment, the rest of the trip, I was just like, I surrendered to everything. I didn't care if we hiked all day. I didn't care if we stopped. I didn't care what we ate. I didn't care if I slept on a uncomfortable ground, whatever. Didn't matter. I was just like, I'm all in on everything. Like I will go wherever you guys, you and Alex Snoop will lead us. And then I remember summiting, that day, and we got up and it was like still dark, and I just hear this pitter patter on my tent. I'm like, oh no, and I didn't know what to expect, which was also
Yeah.
great. And we're hiking, and guys are struggling, and we're like, oh, and then Jordan Matz was like, TP, you timed it perfectly. We're gonna hit the summit right as the sun's peaking, and we get there, and it's like Falls Peak, and
That
then
was the saddle.
I was like, oh no, and then it was like I think we hit a couple false peaks. And
Yeah.
I remember thinking to myself in that moment, I remember thinking, like, if this was just me, I don't know if I'd go to the top.
Huh.
I think I'd settle for this and say, hey, this is good enough. But like those men
Yeah.
pushed me to go all the way. And when I got up there, you gave me this big hug. And it's like, it was almost like the culmination of like 2 years of us spending Tuesdays together,
Hmm.
2 years of just like, and then just surrendering to like, and it's like,
Hmm.
I knew that I knew that I knew.
Hmm.
And I don't know if I ever knew that like to that depth in my life. And it was just kind of like it was healing for me.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted to be different. And I knew that, man, this is like this, that the evangelist in me is like, I'm gonna go tell as many people as I can about this.